everybody. Hello.
Look who I have with me today. It
It's
is
me.
the one, the only, the never could be reproduced.
I'm going to
Christi.
write that down and put it on my wall any day that I'm feeling bad. I'm going to put those words down there. Make me feel good. Thanks, Sarah, baby.
Oh, I told Christi I was so happy to see her today. It's been a long, hard week, and so it's really fortunate to have a guest that brings me so much joy.
Aw,
That
thank
I can have
you.
fun spending some time with. We sent Christi an exotic blooms design kit. Before you get too excited, this kit is completely sold out. And so is the next one. They're all sold out.
Wow.
No kit.
Wow.
This almost never happens.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is
Wow.
actually kind of
Oh my goodness.
crazy. Yeah.
That is amazing.
What? There's no TGBE kit. There's no
That's hard to believe, but not really. You guys put together such great kits. So
They're
I'm
really
not
fun.
at all surprised.
So I will be opening the Turtle Love design kit on the last Wednesday of this month.
Nice.
And if you are lucky and you have one, you can open it with me. If not, you'll have to get on board with our next kit, which will come out on that day, on kit launch day. And I'm sure you will love that one as well. You'll see we have a giveaway going on. I see many of you already found it. Hashtag go bananas. Let me make sure it's actually collecting your names.
Go bananas.
I see 2 people so far, so make sure
I see Debbie and Marianne, right? Hi, both of you guys.
Typing in bananas because I made it extra tricky today. You have to rethink when you enter in for this giveaway. Oh, good. Caroline says Turtle Love is the best. My favorite. It's
very
a good
cool.
one. So is Exotic Blooms, and that's what we're going to be digging into today.
Christi
is going to put her Christi Friesen-ness on it, and
I am. There's going to be so much Christi Friesen-ness going on.
Special.
I'm just not going to do the normal. You know me.
I so admired the design that Heather Powers made at the last TGBE. I'm not going to make the same design, but I'm taking inspiration from her design. And because of that, I pulled out some very pretty specialty beads from her, as well as from my friend's Gollum Studio that kind of went along with my thought process. This is something I've never done before. I honestly didn't get to see Heather's presentation because my life is so busy right now. But I was very inspired by her project. And I hope all of you got to tune into that presentation. If not, you can find it on the Great Bead Extravaganza Facebook page because that's where they all live. And you'll be able to see her interpretation first or after this one if you missed it, and then you can see what I make here. And I'm sure they'll probably end up looking very different, but I love to be inspired by my friends and the neat things that they're making.
It is nice. And boy, that TGBX, I tell you, there's so many neat things that are going on there to be inspired by. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great crop of designers. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It just amazes me how unique the designs are every single, like that was our 15th time doing it, Christi.
Was it the good gravy? That's crazy. Oh, I can believe that, but what an institution we've become.
It still feels like fresh and new every time. And the presenters every time are like, whoa, what are we doing? It's fresh and new for us.
Yeah. And I can so hear you, you see what the other ones are doing and think, ooh, now that's a good one. I'm going to incorporate that like you are doing with Heather's. Like, that's kind of cool, right? That even after all these years of making things, we can still find new stuff all the time.
For sure. That is my favorite thing about jewelry making. There's always a new bead, a new way to use an old bead, a new material to use with the old bead or the new bead. Like it's just
it's never ending.
Changing. Yeah. It's very,
Which
very
we need that variety sometimes, you don't want to just do the same thing over and over again. So beads allow for sort of a contained version of chaos because there's an unlimited pile of beads, but when anybody is like quizzing you of what you're doing. It's like, I'm just doing beads. So it sounds like you got your act together, but honestly, you're all over the place, which I think is kind of a good thing, don't you?
I do too. Yes, I totally do. Okay, I'm going to head over to my camera while you get yourself situated.
I will get myself situated.
And Thomas, in the comments, can you tell us what this week's sale is? I have been off work, trying to look to see real fast. I have been off work for a few days trying to just recover and recuperate. Ooh, it's a good one. Buy 2, get 1 free in the trios. That is a good one. So you pick any 2 trios at softluxcompany.com, and then you probably have to pick your third as well, so that you end up getting the one you want. It doesn't automatically choose one for you. So put 3 in your cart, and one of them should be free. Does it require a coupon? Let's look. Coupon. Choose 3 packs, not valid. Ends May 14th or while supplies last. I don't see any coupon code. It must be automatic. That Kristen is so good. She's really, truly amazing. Okay, I'm going to add in this camera. These are the
let's see if I'm correct now, because I'm having to do all kinds of weird backward stuff here than my usual. Okay. I'm old tech.
Okay, I'll go here while you're working on that.
Now I'm going to do something on my little mirror here so that you do not have to see, but I wanted to make sure that it was right side up.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So here's my bead mat that I'm working on. So you can see I've got some Gollum Studios beads over here. I've got some really beautiful Heather Powers humble beads here, which you can find similar like items on her website, but she hand makes all of these things. So a lot of times she does these unique runs of items, and it may be hard to find the exact same thing, but you can find other cool things like those. These have been in my stash for a while. And then I had taken out these 2 beads because one of the things I noticed in her design was she had taken some tubes and then knotted with like a leather cord, or she uses like, I don't think it's leather. It is a cording of some kind. And I was thinking, whoa, could I do that with soft wax? Could I take these in pairs and knot them to make them a little thicker and then string them with these other beautiful beads? I don't know. So we're going to find out. And then I was just like sitting here and I was like, oh, these things are really gorgeous. And they kind of go with my color palette here. Yeah, so I added those in too, and we'll see what ends up coming of it. All right, let's go to Christi's table and see what she's got a cook in there.
I got some stuff. I think I'm right side up. I'll find out in a minute. By the way, I know we've got people watching in more than one place, and I'm so glad to see that we've got everybody joining in and commenting faster than I can keep up. So just know that I'm seeing you guys, and I'm really excited that you're here, and I would be commenting on every one of you if I could, but just know we're watching you and hearing you, and it's all good. All right, I think we got this pretty straight. So this is a mirror like this, but I didn't want you to have to get the glare of my phone the whole time. So I just covered it up with some chalk powder, some pan pastel, so that way you could get the round of it, but not have to see the camera reflected in it. And I just so you know, so that's a mirror. I'm going to be using all of this amazing stuff that came in their kit. Look at all this crazy stuff. And I just sort of went through it all and I sorted it into, like things so I can kind of instantly grab what I need. And I'm going to mix up my epoxy clay and start doing stuff. So Sarah, you just tell me when it's good to go and I'll
go for it. Yeah. One thing I want to note is if you want to win your prize at the end, you have to be present. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end in order to claim your prize. Okay, go for it, Christi.
Excellent. Well, please forgive the gloves. I had a knife mishap the other day. So I've got, I know, right? It's like one day and then the next, okay, I threw away that knife. I obviously was not a big enough girl to handle that knife. But it means I have weird gloves. Don't worry. That's not any like new kind of technique. that I wanted to share with you guys. It's just my being a ding dong. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use epoxy sculpt. Now I sell epoxy sculpt in my store, and I think Kristen already popped on and gave you a link over to my store, which was so kind of her, where you can get some of that. And what it is, it's a putty. So it's a 2-part putty, and I've got 2 equal parts pulled out of here. And then I'm just going to mix them thoroughly together. And I'm using gloves because it's a glue, and you don't want it to be getting all into your pores and everything, you know. Plus, I always think it's always good to minimize your interaction with chemicals if you can. So I'm doing it the dorky way with my broken glove. Just feel sorry for me and send me love. I don't know how to use a knife anymore. But what I'm doing is I'm thoroughly mixing these two. And this will make a soft putty that dries to a rock hard cement. And it allows me to shove all of these gorgeous little beads and bits into to create sort of like a mosaic assemblage. This stuff will stay sticky for about an hour. So I've got about an hour of playtime, and then I can keep on making more and adding as needed. So far so good, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure if anybody has questions here. I'm just going to have to rely upon the fact that
keep an eye out and let you know.
Yeah. If you notice any questions that somebody's got, just holler. I see a lot of go bananas, which I think is good. So I'm going to take my epoxy clay, and this is the cool thing about this, is I can just go around the outside edge. I'm working on a silicone mat, so any nonstick surface is going to work great. And I'm using the silicone. You could use a plastic baggie. You could use like a soft, flexible plastic cutting board, anything that's sort of nonstick, and it will grab, the epoxy clay will grab onto it while it's sticky. And then once it's fully dried, and it takes 24 hours to fully cure, it just peels right off. So this is great. And so it'll sandwich everything in there, but then afterwards I can add a backing or whatever on it. And here's the part that y'all are going to love with all your heart and mind. You can then just take your beads and shove them directly onto the surface, all willy-nilly, however you want. And that's it. You don't got to do nothing else. You don't got to trim things. You don't got to measure stuff. You don't have to do any of that other stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But
very
this is like the super easiest way. And what I thought I would do too, I'm going to just put a whole kind of like a tropical plethora of goodness in here. And I'm using her, the Softlex, I shouldn't say her, because this isn't your personal kit, but the Softlex kit has some lucite beads in there. Now, lucite or acrylic, I think these are probably lucite, right? They don't like stick, you know, so perfectly, but when you shove them in like this, they stay pretty well. And okay, guys, I have a fun little trick that you guys have got to see with the Softlex wire. So I'm going to take my little wire. I'm going to cut like a little niblet off of it. And this is going to be like a flower stamen. Okay, so I have my little piece of wire. Yeah. And I've got some micro glitter. And I have some super glue. And all I'm going to do now is take my little Softlex wire, put a dib-dabby-doo of glue on the end, dip it into my glitter, and now I have like a little, what would you call this? Like a stamen, like a little pop of glitter color on the end of this thing, which then I can just stick in for the middle of the flower. And I'm going to trim some of that off because it's a little bit crazy. And I made up a bunch ahead of time, so I am going to just stick this one in.
Dry.
Burp, burp, burp. They're super glue, so they just dry super quick. And I'm just going to put a couple of them in there.
What color does the clay dry? Does it stay black?
Yes, it does. And I chose the black because it's very jewel-like to me. Once you put like all the other things in, it makes them really pop and look really cool. But I've got white and green. You can do any of those things if you want to. I'm going to be covering every inch if I can, which means that the only parts you'll see are little teeny bits sticking out around the edges. So that kind of makes it look like the grouting in a traditional mosaic, you know? So look at how fun is that, right?
Beautiful.
So yeah. So I'm just going to keep on making. So I'm starting off with a lot of pinks and pinks and oranges because you had so many amazing little pinks and oranges in here. And then there was these little shell things, which you can do like straight down like this, or you can put them on their edge, whichever you want. I'm not really like worrying too much about the design because this is a neat thing when you have a curated kit, is that every single thing in the kit will look good with everything else. You don't have to think about it. It's already, all the thinking and in terms of design has been done for you by Softlex. All you got to do is just shove them all around. And that's the case whether you're working on a necklace or, you know, or something like this, is it's just the figuring out the colorway is done already. So one less thing, right? So I'm just going to keep on keeping on over here. So here's how I'm doing that. Now I also have like a little pile of my own little seed bead mix. I always have just like a little assortment of seed beads by color. And that way I can come in here and I could add, you know, little pieces here and there so I could fill up as much as possible. Because, you know, I like to kind of keep it nice and rich. The reason is if you don't have a lot of beads on the surface to make it look like a mosaic, what it kind of looks like is that somebody sneezed in a bead factory, which is not my favorite look. I tend to like it a little bit more, you know, densely populated. So that's just me. That's just my preference. You can do whatever you like. It's, you know, no judgment. It's all good. So one thing I've noticed on stuff like this is that you'll have some beads, like this kit came with a lot of really cool colored shell Heshy style beads, which I love for mosaics because they really cover a space well, and then they've got all those little dots in the middle, which are kind of interesting from a design standpoint. But if you look at those and they sicken you, then you can always just take like a little head pin and trim it and drop it on in there. So I've got a head pin here, just a little ball tipped head pin, and I'm going to trim it. Save those ends because you can use those ends in your mosaics as well. You can, you know, cut them all up and turn them into little loops or just, you know, little bits or whatever. And then these can just fit. Oh, this is like a double one. How bizarre is that? Well, okay, that double one then just gets to be a decoration. I'll just stick that one in there and go back and find a single one so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm just trim this right here. And then you just drop this right straight into whatever of the visible circles that sicken you and you want to do something more decorative. And you could do that to all of them if you want or not, whatever, you know, whatever. So that's what I'm going to do so far and just continue to keep on doing like that. But I wanted to show you one more thing, because typically I would say this particular thing is so great. It is a shell with a lovely transfer on there of these beautiful flowers. And I'm going to break it, which is not one thing I recommend, but I sometimes like to do this. So I'm going to take my pliers out, and these are special little ceramic nippers, and I'm going to trim it into a couple of little chunks, because then I have these nifty little mosaic shards if I didn't want the whole big flower, you know, which today I guess I don't. So I'm just kind of getting it on the edge there and trimming this down a little bit. They do kind of fly, so watch your eyeballs. And since I have been in a kind of klutzy mood here by chopping myself all over the place, I'm trying to be careful.
Don't cut your finger off.
I know, right? As soon as I said that, I was like, I better watch out, because I managed to cut myself twice in 2 days. So that's dumb. Well, I think we're good. I think I managed it without destruction. All right, so now I'm going to take these little bitty pieces, and I use a pickup tool like a crystal katana or something like that. That's always really easy for this type of mosaic stuff. But you could use like a wax pencil or whatever if you wanted to, which is also good. And you see how you can just pick these up, and then it has that look of a more traditional mosaic, and it can kind of fill in some of the gaps. So I'm going to trim that little end off because I don't want it. And just put that in. And you could use tweezers to pick it up too, but I'm going to just put it on this end like this. And let's see what else I got. Okay, so look how fun that is. That just gives me a whole different look to transition to. I'm going to blow away some of those shards because I don't want them. So now what I would do is like, okay, I've got the beginnings of things. I want to kind of continue my design to the outer edges. I want to fill in all the little gaps. and just make this area here as rich as I can. And I'm going to go back because I have another one of these flowers. I'm going to put another one up in here, and I'm trying to change those angles around anytime I have a little bit of my epoxy clay that was mixed up, but I haven't yet put it around. I always have a little bit of that on the edge. And I also have a wet wipe around. So you want to continually wipe your fingers, you know, as you're using that epoxy clay, just to keep yourself from getting any on you. But because there's epoxy clay down inside that little hole, I can put another little ball of epoxy clay inside, and the two should attach together. And that lets me put another, like, more impressive something on there. So let's see, what do I want to put in there? Well, there's this yellow. Is that too big? It isn't. Look at that. So I'm going to set that down in there and make that kind of fun. Make that stay put. And then I can go back with my little thing that I made earlier and stick that in there. Or I could put a head pin, you know. But it just makes that garden fill up. And I love that. I just think that is so much fun. And since I use that yellow, I'll put some more yellow here. But you get the idea, right? Like, this is totally an addictive way of playing with your beads, because you don't really have to have a plan, especially when you're putting it on a form like this, like a mirror. It just starts just shoving all around, and that's all you have to do to make it all look really good. So I'm loving it. Yeah, I love that.
Very nice. So Christi is joining us from Hawaii. For those of you who, for some reason, haven't met Christi before,
where have you been hiding?
Hiding in Hawaii, which is part of why we sent her this kit, because she is surrounded by beautiful exotic blooms.
Love it so much.
But Christi, where can people find you normally, like if they wanted to watch you once a week?
Everything is on my just ChristiFriesen.com. You can find where I'm at. There'll be links to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is called Christi Universe. So you can find me over there. You can find my various Facebook groups. There's a membership group that you could join. You know, so there's a lot of different ways to find me. I'm kind of all over in your face. But if you just go to ChristiFriesen.com, that will find me. And if you go look over there, let me see if I've got my Christi Friesen real quick. I think here's this. Only Apple copy. And I'm not sure. I'm just going to put it on one of these chats. It's probably the wrong one, but there we go. That'll get you over to my YouTube channel. What's that?
Thomas will pick it up and share it. He's pretty good.
Thomas, I appreciate you very much. He is very good. I like Thomas. He's very wonderful and helpful. I appreciate that. But yeah, if you go straight to my website, you're going to find everything, including, like, I was just looking through my stuff, and I'm not even going to use these because I pulled out some of these green leaves that I had, and I had like an orange shell, like a leaf. This is actually a bead that goes both sides, which is nice. But you know what? You guys gave me such amazing stuff in this kit that I don't even need to add anything from my pile. You know, I think that's kind of the rule of thumb, is that you can never have too many beads, right? I think that's the rule. So you're obviously going to want to get every bead from everywhere that budget will allow, always, all the time, forever, in perpetuity. But I've got a few on mine, as well as just odd stuff. But one thing that I would say that is on my site that you might want to go check out, and when you go there, just click on the spotlight. That's like, you'll be able to see everything that I think is important right in your face. And if you go to the spotlight thing, you'll see a epoxy essentials kit. So essentially it'll give you one small thing of this epoxy clay, of this epoxy clay, and like a pickup stick and some gloves, and probably a little small bit of nonstick surface silicone mat, and that'll get you started. You know, so that's a good way to begin. And I'm using the black, but there's, like I said, blue and brown. So there's other colors, just depends on what you like. But I definitely would recommend getting some of this epoxy clay and just having a grand old time, because every time you guys come out with a kit, what inevitably happens is that you make, you know, we all make the stuff from the kit, but there's a few pieces left over, right? So what are you going to do with all those leftover pieces? You just mix up some epoxy clay and start shoving them all over the place, and problem solved.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Those sweet little, like, a rainbow colored she's are from our friend Kay Goss, also
Oh,
a part of the Great
wonderful.
Extravaganza. Yeah, we like to partner with all of you guys because you're the best of the
Oh,
best. So
yeah. Oh my goodness. Well,
spend
this is a
time.
great assortment. I agree. We are an amazing group of folks over there. I'm so like honored to be a part of that mix, that Great Bead Extravaganza mix, because it is just so diverse and interesting. Everybody's got their own, thing going on. So many of us have been around forever in various places doing things, online or in person workshops and all the rest. It's just kind of amazing sort of history of beading going on with that group. But I love these little heshies that you got from her. They are fab.
Aren't they so pretty? She's
They
been
are.
helping us with a few things for our kits, and she always, just like our friends Jesse James Beads, just knocks it out of the park with our theme, and
Nice.
it's really great.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, I'm just basically going to be doing more of the same, Sarah. So you, of course, can watch me as long as you want, or you can flip it over and show them stuff you've got
Sure.
going on, and it'll be fine because I'm just going to keep on filling this up. Is all I'm doing.
Let's see if I can get this to focus. Okay, so I made a bracelet while you guys were busy with Christi.
Oh my goodness, how pretty is that? Good grief, girl.
Oh yeah, so I'll show you how I put it together. And it worked just how I thought it would, which is always a pleasure when it
Yeah.
works how you think it's going to, right? So I've got some antique brass soft legs beading wire. You could use whatever color you desire with your section of beads. I don't know if we still have these green tubes on the website. I meant to look before the show, but I was like, no, I'm just doing this project. I've been thinking about it. To heck if we have them for sale or not.
Sometimes you know what you get. I bet you'll have something similar though. You'll have something similar if it's
Yeah.
not.
Or maybe even Heather does because she used something similar in her design at Spring Fling. So I'm going to string to the center of my wire, and then I'm going to take both strands and string on a 2x2 millimeter Softlex crimp tube. Christi likes to use these crimp tubes in her clay too.
I do. I so do.
Metallic texture using them.
Oh gosh, yeah.
These look really cool. Okay, so I'm going to grab my magical crimpers, center that crimp tube, and compress. The first go around should give you a little square ravioli. Turn it on its side and compress, and then just go around and around, kind of tightening it down into the nylon coating of the wire. And then you should have 2 equal sized strands, right? Because we strung it to the middle. We added our crimp. Now I'm going to take each one of those strands and string one of these great ceramic barrel. Are these barrels? They're not barrels. What are they called? Tubes? Whatever shape this is. Tube bead.
Yeah, they look like a barrel to me.
Okay, so we got one on each one. Then we're just going to do an overhand knot. So over your fingers with both wires. And then you want to kind of bring that knot down to those, as close down to those 2 beads as you can get. So maybe like that. Then you're going to split those 2 wires and just give them a decent yank so that sets that knot into the wire. And then you may have to just kind of straighten out your tubes. The wires are going to do this, and that's okay. That's planned. They don't have to be perfect this time because we're not just stringing, we're knotting. So when we add these next on and we go to knot them on the top, it will kind of straighten them out a little bit. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing is my knot is not settled. So I can't have that. I'm going to go in and settle that knot for sure so that it's nice and tight and there's no loose bits about it. Then you just continue down your strand. So next up, put my 2 little barrels and then overhand knot. And through that little hole, bring it down to those 2 beads as close as you can move it, and then split the wires, give it a decent yank, and then kind of straighten out your little beads, just like that. And then when you want to go and add your extras, maybe some beads from Humble Beads, you're just going to take both strands. These have nice big holes on them, and it's a nice decent sized bead. So when it goes down over the top of those two wires, even though they were kind of pulling funny, it's just going to sit really nice next to that knot. And then you can go ahead and do some of your beading. So I did maybe like this bird, and then maybe I'll put one of these 2-hole beads I got last week from my friend Cassandra Spicer, just to add a little bit of extra intrigue here. And then maybe I'll grab one of these Gollum Studio beads, and you can just keep going just like that. And then I've got
so pretty
strands to work on. So I went back on the other end after adding, I had this really great Humble Beads bead here with a bee and a flower. I had this Gollum, and then another beautiful Humble Beads double-sided. I just went ahead and added 2 more tubes at the other end, and then I crimped it again. And you've got a really nice, fun, very great spring and summer bracelet.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that.
Thank you. It turned out even better than I thought it would. I was like pretty excited about it. Okay,
Don't you love that when that happens? I love that.
Because it doesn't always happen.
Yes. Oh boy, I know. There's sometimes you get some epic fails, but most of the time I think we turn out pretty good. But when it doesn't, oh man, it's kind of like, hey, wait a second. I thought that in my head that was the most amazing bracelet of all times, and then in reality, apparently not. What the heck
is amiss now?
Yes. What is happening?
Oh, look at how
luckily this time it's all good.
Beautiful. So Christi, how long will this take to dry once you've settled on your design?
The epoxy clay takes 24 hours to dry, and that's like for it to be completely hardened. It will start being pretty firm, in several hours. And you can add additional, like, as you can tell, I got to keep on going with the mirror, right? So I can, anytime, I could come back and just add more, whether it's still wet or whether it's already completely dry. You don't got to prep it. You don't have to do anything special to make the new clay stick to the old clay. But it really is rock hard, like cement hard. And as you can tell, I'm just putting more and more and more. And I also wanted to show you a little trick. In your mix, there was a lot of cool things. There's some disco beads going on in here, but there were these fun little metal things. When I mix up the clay off camera, I always have just like a little extra, because sometimes you want to put things on top of things. So all I'm going to do is take like a little ball of clay, stick it on top of something. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit more because the thing I'm going to stick is a little bit bigger. And then you can just build up kind of a crazy going up. So you don't even have to worry about what will fit on there. It's just what can you shove in there. So I'm going to take this and shove that in on top of that. And you see how it makes that little blob come through? That allows me, when I put another little bit of epoxy clay, that the two stick together and they make a wonderful little physical bond there,
That's
and
awesome.
then I'm going to put the second version of that flower in there. And then just like, I think I might just use one of these little nifty round heshy thingy boops, if I can get it to stop wandering away. Hang on. Come back here, little guy. And I'm trying to get it so that I can put it sideways so that the hole is hidden. So look at how fun that turned out, right? So then I added that one here. I added another one here, some over there. What I wanted to do is I wanted to transition from all of this sort of citrusy pinks and orange, and then kind of get up into the green area and make a lot more green going up here. So that's where I could conceivably, if I felt like it, these are on my site, these are little minty fresh leaves, little checked leaves. But something like this could be a way of covering up some large area, sticking out over here. We'll see. But, just kind of keep on transitioning color. So here I've got all this orange. Because we've got so much turquoise, I might kind of change this now as we go into all the blues and the turquoises. You just don't even know what could happen. It's
Yeah.
just all fun. And I loved these too. You had these little pom-pom tassel things in here. This is the new thing.
Yes, I
These just
love
got like
those.
metal. Aren't they great? They've got a metal uh cap on them, which
Mhm.
means they're gonna stick into this epoxy clay no problem because the metal part will stick beautifully. So I'm just kind of shoving to see where I want to fit. That seems good. So yeah, I'm just continuing to do more of this nonsense
That's
just for
awesome.
fun. Yeah, but
It
I love
looks
it.
cool. Is it going to stick to the mirror? Or are you
Yes.
just using the mirror for the shape?
It's going to stick to the mirror. Now, you wouldn't have, you could make a freeform shape if you wanted just like a frame, or if you
Uh-huh.
wanted to size this down and make like a little pendant, then you can just make any kind of form and just use, the same technique and any shape you want. But it will stick to the edge of the mirror. And then what I'll do is I'll peel it off because right now it's just hovering around the outer edge, right? So that's not real sturdy. But I'll flip it over in the back, mix up a little bit more of the epoxy clay, nice and thin, and just kind of cover the whole back. That'll keep the mirror from getting scratched, and then I can put a little hanger back there using soft flex wire or just regular 20 gauge wire, either one, and that will allow it to hang up when I'm ready for that to happen. So yeah, we got a lot of different stuff that can happen with these things in terms of just having it as a decor item, or whether you want to then do something that's smaller and have it a little bit more as a something that you would wear like a pendant or something.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of up to you.
You're not planning on going around the whole mirror, but you could.
I am actually, yes. I'm
Oh,
just
you
doing it in
are?
stages. And I'm glad you brought that up. The reason why, although I could leave it just like this, but the reason why I am only doing a little at a time is because when I mix up that clay, it has about a half an hour, I'm
Mm.
sorry, about an hour of mix time. So if I was just starting out and I was, a little bit tenuous about like what goes where, and I have to think about my design, then I might be moving kind of slowly. And if I have this entire pile of epoxy clay drying and then I'm panicking and then it's not fun anymore. So we don't want that. We always want our art time to be pure fun because
Yeah.
that's what it's for. We have our lives. Those are work and we got a bunch of stuff we have to deal with. So we want our playtime to be playtime.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of just mix up a little as I go. And that way I can continue to work on it. Because you might come home from work and go, man, I am exhausted, but I got to do something creative today or my head will explode. Why don't I mix up a tiny batch of epoxy clay on that mirror that I'm working on, and I'll put 4 more things on it, and then that'll be enough. I'll have got a little bit of creativity for the day. I'll feel pretty good, but I won't have to, be too overwhelmed. And that's a nice way of doing it too, because the form is always here. You just keep adding, 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 adding.
My friend Rosanna wants to know if you're telling everyone to just shove it.
Shove it. I just shove it, baby. That's my favorite technique is shoving. You got it. You got
Melanie,
it.
this is a chaotic design that
Yes.
anyone could do. You could do this
Yes.
too. And it
Yes.
would look beautiful.
And that's sort of the point, like we talk about with these kits, is Softflex has done on all of these kits, like every single kit that you guys make can all be turned into something like this. Like I just added these little 4-inch mirrors to my site today because I realized I had an enormous box full of them and that somebody might want one. If they were buying other things, they would just toss in one. But of course, you can go get them at any kind of big box craft store. They'll probably have mirrors there, and they're cheap. I don't know, it's like $4 or something. So it's kind of nice to have that because then you don't have to go, I wonder what I should make. It's like, I think I'll make another mirror. It's easy, and people always can use little mirrors. It satisfies the question that many non-craft people annoyingly ask us: what is it for? Like jewelry, it's good because like it's a necklace, so nobody has to question you. But if you're making sculptural pieces and stuff, a lot of times people are like, well, what is that for? What does it do? Like it's just a sculpture, but what is it? This one's like it's a mirror, and everybody's like, oh, okay, a mirror, that makes sense. Because we all have decided as a culture that mirrors have value. So you see, one problem solved.
Aha, that makes
Yeah.
sense. For those who joined late, what happened to your finger?
Oh, apparently after all of these years, I forgot how knives work. Not once, but twice. So I cut myself once, And then the next day I cut myself again. I said, that's it. That knife is getting out of here. I obviously cannot handle that knife. It was a new knife, you know, so you have a different like muscle memory. It was a lighter weight and obviously much sharper knife than it was used to. So like, oh, rat. So yeah, you get the weird, stupid finger glop look over here, which is nuts, right? All right, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more, Sarah, because I can. I hope
Awesome.
that's okay. I hope I'm
Yeah,
not taking too much of
definitely.
the show here. And
A
what I
lot.
wanted to do, I was mentioning that I was transitioning from this color here with a lot of oranges and all that stuff and going up to greens. But then I put this big old thing here, which is back in this red family. So I'm going to put this back where it belongs over in the red and orange area. And then you can see that, oh, now there's like a big gunk over there. Don't even worry about it. I'm just going to take some other little bits and pieces that I have over here and just shove them over in this area because now I want to go to some blues because in this kit were also some blue items, which amuse me. So I'm going to show you another little trick when playing with epoxy clay that it's good to have in your bag of tricks that makes you feel like you know everything about epoxy clay because it's really not that hard. But that is using beads that are already strung up. So I'll go back to that one. In your kit, you had these blue beads, right? So I thought, okay, let's start getting a little bit of blue going on in here. So what I did is I have a bead, one of those bead grabbers, you know, but I don't know what I did with it. So I just used its little tape at the end to keep it from going crazy. And there's other blue beads that I'm going to use as well in the kit. But I'm going to take this strand of strung beads, okay? I'm holding it nice and tightly. Oh, and also for anybody who's just joined, I put some powder over the mirror so you wouldn't constantly just be seeing my phone in the mirror. That is not anything that you have to do. It's just I did that for the sake of the video. And then I'm just going to take this thing and I'm just going to press it here and make like a fun little design with this strand because that will give me something to sort of break up this big old pile of flowers that I've got going on. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But if I wanted like a couple of different looks, so now I could just take this.
See how she just pulled the thread out, you guys?
Right? Isn't that like magical? I love that. It's just so cool. So it's already done all the work for you, right? And then there'll be a bunch of extra beads over there. Don't let that bother you. Sometimes that happens. And look at this.
Could
And
you
it's
do
just
this
like
on a wood picture frame, Christy?
Oh, heck yes. Absolutely. Have done that a bunch. And it turns out so good. It looks so good. And the neat thing about the wood is you only have to do it like maybe in a corner or something. You don't have to cover the whole thing. What I suggest is that, and I think I might have a tutorial on using epoxy clay on a wood frame. There might be one of those floating around on my site because I have a tutorial section that you can find over there at Friesen.com. But you would put in a little wood screw so that if you put in a couple of screws in the area where you want your epoxy clay to be, then the epoxy clay can anchor onto the screw, which is better than just on the wood because it'll stick to the wood, but it'll only stick to the top fibers of the wood. So over time, you know, it could pull off because, you know, those are fibers that are not like connected in the same way as glass or ceramic would be. So you might want to put those little screws in first and then just go right on top and have a grand old day.
You can definitely do this on glass, like a vase, because you're doing it
on a vase. So glass, ceramic, and metal are like the best because that is just like the epoxy clay loves those things. It goes on there all day long. It's sort of made for that. Other things you have like little tricks you have to do to make it work, but it will work. And so now I'm going to go back to our little mix over here and I'm going to start pulling in some of these. And I showed you earlier how you can add head pins into that center hole if that center hole bothers you and you don't want to just see the center hole, you want to see something. So then you can put head pins in there or even little seed beads if you have something small enough. So I'm going to put a couple of these for no reason. There was these ones too, which are pretty big. And I might just kind of set these up here. One or two of those just for fun. But those were kind of fun ceramics. So I think sometimes just making yourself, excuse me, which is sort of the point of these kits, challenging yourself to use things in a kit and try to see what you can come up with is kind of a fun challenge for your creativity because it forces you to sort of try to do with what you have instead of what you wish you had, which is fine. I mean, if you get sick of that, you can go, fine, I'm going to get whatever I want. Which I brought in a little box of a little bowl of my own just seed bead mix because I do use that to kind of fill in the gaps. But otherwise, it's like just sort of seeing what's going on with this and just making it up based on what I'm given is kind of a fun thing, right?
Yes, I think so. And it's always fun for us because we make so many of these kits. It's fun to see what everybody makes.
Yes, people come up with other things.
Variety of things.
Yeah.
From the same set of beads. What you see as a mosaic on a mirror is what someone else sees as an embroidery project, or
Yes.
it's so interesting. You're blowing some minds out here, Christy.
Well, oh, good. I love that. Yay, no extra charge for that. And I don't know if you can see this part is a little bit dark here. I'm going to try to tilt this a bit. So actually, how about if I turn on the other light that I have? What a dork. Okay, so can you see this part a little bit clearer now? So even though those are pretty dark beads, they make a beautiful little breakup of the scene, right? Oh, cool. I'm so glad.
Will you take a good picture of it when you're all done, Christy?
Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely.
It really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another little trick. Like I like when I've got a big piece like this, I like to transition from one color to another just to keep up an interesting kind of a change. So your eye has different things to look at. But one thing that is helpful is then to take some of the color and put it elsewhere so that the transition is a little easier for your eye because it's like, oh, I already saw that color. Okay, I get it. So like I'll put a little pop of orange over here or pink over here just to remind you that this is all part of the pink and orange area. In fact, I'm going to tuck one right in there and see how that kind of brings a sort of continuity to everything, which I think is kind of good. So that is just my own opinion. I could be 100% wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway because I feel like it.
If you want to try this clay, go to Christi Friesen's website. Yeah. Pick a color and give it a try. And you will probably have your own bead soup from the many different kits you've purchased from us over the years that you can pull out and intermix and just have fun.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and this is a great thing to do with all those little leftover beads that if you're a beader, you always have part of a vial left or whatever. And you know what I do? And of course, you don't have to do this, but it is the best thing you should do. I'm just saying, is that what I do is I make myself rainbow mixes. So I will have like a bucket where all kinds of green leftover beads go. So I don't look for any one particular tube, and see if I have enough. I have just like, this is a good example of that. I just have a pile of green beads so that when I'm doing something and I need green, then I already have a lot of green choices, which I think is very helpful to have because it takes the decision-making process out of the way and lets you stay in the creative zone. Because when you start having to make choices like that, you kind of get yourself a little bit out of that pure creativity mode. So anyway, that's just a little suggestion in case that's interesting to anybody. We come back. These little guys are harder to grab. They just want to wander off. A couple of them have found new homes already. So, but yeah, I just love trying to see what can I do with what you've got in here already. But this is fun, right? So, so far so good. And I might want to put something in here. Yeah, just because it's very dark in there. So a little something like we did with our little sticker uppers could be fun, or I don't know, just have to play with that and see. But there is some more blues in here that, although they were dark, would be fun. I try to get onto the outer edges and the inner edges because you're going to see all of that. So you want to be remembering that, your mirror is also here. So you want to make sure that you've got stuff on the inside. So if you look, you're not just being greeted with the edge of the clay. You have, beads and things that are there where you can see. So I try to shove things into the edges whenever I can when I'm doing a mirror. Same thing with a pendant. You want to make sure all your outer edges are finished. And that's the nice thing about this stuff lasting for at least an hour. Often I find I've got about an hour and a half of usable, workable time. Excuse me. I usually tell everybody an hour just so they can bank on that. But usually it's about an hour and a half, really, that I can play with this stuff, which is good. It gives you a lot of time to design and play with stuff. So, and again, that's why I mix it up in batches, because once I've gotten all that I can get in and it's starting to get a little hard, it's like gum, it'll start getting a little sticky and you really have to kind of push it to make it stay, but then I can just mix up another batch and go from there. So I love this little like river right here. I don't want to mess that up.
It's
But
so
I might
good.
add another one of these little beads kind of standing up in this area because there's a lot of the same look. So that metal piece that you had, just stick one of those right up in there, right all up in this business, which is fun. If I had a little crystal, I could pop it right on the tip of that, which I don't know if I do, but if I do, I'll put it. If not, I'll put a little bead on there.
Terry wants to know, does it dry differently in warm or cool or dry or humid climates?
It would affect the speed. Like a really hot place would dry faster than a cooler place. But other than that, I've never noticed that humidity affects like the end product, doesn't affect anything about the actual chemicalness of the drying process. So yeah, wherever you are, the hotter it is, the faster you have to work, or the less at a time you use. So it's not, drying faster than you can handle. But yeah, good question. But no, we're good. Good.
Do you ever have parts fall off after it's dried? And then what do you do?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Good job, you guys. I always, when I'm all done, like we talked about, when this is all done, I'll peel it off of the non-stick surface and I'll kind of look on the back side and add additional clay to make sure that it's stuck onto that mirror well. Because right now I'm just sort of gently placing it on the mirror, and that's not quite enough. But if something does fall off, it's usually because either the epoxy clay was getting a little hard, and therefore it wasn't grabbing to the full amount that you would want. Or, it could be any number of other things, but that's usually why. It's usually just starting to get a little too dry. And then I can just mix up a bit more epoxy clay and just put it right back in. You can use super glue too, but just a small little thing. If it's an edge of something, and so the edge was starting to be a little less, like right here, I have beads that are coming right to that edge. And I have used my tools to shove them in. This is a tool you can get on my site, by the way. It's called the Wow, It's Awesome tool because it's really awesome. But I'm kind of using it to shove them into the clay there. And if when I'm all done, it looks like, oh, there needs a little bit more, then I'll just mix up a little bit more and stick it on that edge. Make sure that it's good and grabby. But yeah, it's no problem. You can just repair it with more of the stuff, or even regular other kinds of glue. E6000 or super glue works just fine. So yeah, good question.
Could you hang something like this on a porch or a front door or somewhere else?
Absolutely. This is waterproof stuff and weatherproof stuff. It is a great cement. I've seen people use it on bird feeders. They use this is the same type of stuff that they use in aquariums to add like the coral onto the pretend rocks. That's all epoxy clay. So it is, it can go in an aquarium. Let's say I wouldn't put these beads in an aquarium per se, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it can be outside. It can take the weather. It is completely weatherproof. So it's pretty good stuff in that way. So yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities. And if you're using a lot of beads that are just glass and stone and ceramic, then they all can go outside too. So you could make some really fancy outdoor beaderiness. I mean, that would be cool.
So you can add wet clay to a dry area. So like as you're attaching it to the edges, there's no like disjointedness that you started some clay later then.
Exactly. Like this is starting to get a little bit too hard, but I will show you on this little piece right here, because this one is, I'm just kind of mixing it again so it'll be nice and soft. It's softer anyway. I'm going to just see how I kind of finish with that. This could just tuck right underneath. Now, this is still a little moist under there, so I'm going to lift it up just a little bit and then add some more clay. I'm going to keep a little on the side in case I need it for something. and then that just lets me keep on going. But this could be completely dry. I mean, I could come back to it a year later and go, I think I want to add a little bit of something, and then it's no problem to do that. So yeah, it's very convenient that way. It doesn't have a lot of issues with the material itself and things that it needs. And those of you who weren't here at the very beginning saw that I took this absolutely gorgeous shell pendant that they have and then cut it, because that's what I do sometimes. I just bring chaos into the world. But I like it because now it's not a flower; it's just a mosaic part of the design, which sometimes can be kind of a fun thing, right? So I'm using specific little nippers that are for cutting mosaic tiles, and they go everywhere.
You broke a bunch of hearts when you did that earlier.
I know, and I apologize ahead of time because I know that that's not the thing you want to see me do, is take this beautiful thing and then destroy it. But I also am doing it on purpose to show you that we do not have to be afraid. I'm looking to see where the pieces went when we create. I think sometimes we get precious with our materials, and that's understandable. They cost money or they're one of a kind. You don't want to just be ruining things. But also, it's playtime. What would happen if? And when you're in that zone of what would happen if, and you remove the expectations of what you think is going to happen, then sometimes things can occur now because you've given them the freedom to come out and play, and you will amuse yourself and amaze yourself and just have a great old time. And then I always think, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that I would ruin this lovely little shell pendant that I was, in this kit, and that would be sad. So I have to know, am I willing to take that risk? Because if the answer is no, I do not want to ruin that, then don't do it. But if the answer is like, well, you know what, I feel brave, let's just give it a try, then go for it and see what happens. And then, then you learn stuff. You can't learn new things unless you're willing to wreck things or mess up.
Windbent Art said, does she bend down book pages too? Christi probably rips book pages out and reformats them to something new and improved.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Oh my goodness. I would never bend the book page. No. And certainly would not chop up a book to use it in something else. I would never do that.
Dana loves how fast you're able to do this and not you don't get caught up too much in overthinking it, right? You just kind of go for it.
I do. And this is a learned ability. So if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. The way you get there is by giving yourself permission to play. But what happens when you start letting go of where you think things are supposed to go? You start actually kind of tapping into a creative flow. And I have found that lately, and this is a fairly new thing for me. I mean, I've always been able to be in the flow, as all of us have from time to time. But lately, I have been able to kind of tap into this feeling of watching the artwork make itself, as almost as though I'm just an observer. And that has been really kind of fun because, it's pure play. Like you were a kid when you're like stomping on a puddle. And it's like, wow, look at how that goes. You're not thinking about that your clothes are going to have to be cleaned up later and you're going to get in trouble and all that. At the moment, you're just having a big, muddy, fun time, which now as adults, we get to do that without having to worry about cleaning it afterwards, and then we worry about it. But, so I think when you can get yourself set up so that the materials are sort of creating with you instead of you making the materials do what you want, a whole new level of creativity opens up, and it's pretty damn exciting, I will have to say. So I'm enjoying this stage where I'm almost like I'm as surprised as anyone at the end of what happened, because I'm there, but I'm almost like not paying attention to it because I'm just letting it just make itself. So does that make sense? That's a lot of rambling.
Yes,
you know what I mean, right?
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So for those who didn't hear it earlier, that beautiful shell pendant, if you want a whole one, you can buy it still at softworkscompany.com, and then you can cut yours up too if you want to, or you can leave it whole. Also, the Exotic Beads bead mix is still available, but there's only a few left. Kristen, you're in the chat. Why don't you tell me what I'm going to give away today for Go Bananas? I didn't pick something before I got started. So why don't you look through and see what you think?
Oh, a Go Bananas surprise. How exciting.
When I was having my youngest, we were talking about names, and his big sister, not his biggest sister, but the middle sister, suggested that we name him Banana.
Oh, I love that.
We
That is
still
great.
laugh about that.
Do you sometimes call him that as a nickname?
I haven't actually, but I may have to start.
Might be time. Yeah, he might have grown into the banana moniker. So, yeah, that's
He
exciting.
does like bananas too. It's one of the only 5 foods that he eats. So,
Well, that is it. See, now that is interesting. I like that. That is very good. That very prophetic, your daughter.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. Well, while Kristen is finding that, I'll just tell you, this is a thing about this mix that I think is so much fun. I won't be mixing up any more today. I'll come back to it and I'll show you where we are so far. I'll post a picture and I'll also show you the finish. But I want you to see where I think I'm going next. Is look at all of these shiny, weird disco business happening over here. I think now that we've got the blues, we went into the pinks, we're kind of going into the mostly greens and reds. I'm going to continue to use all of these gorgeous little green stuff that you guys gave me and fill in a lot of green, and I'll start putting a lot more of just the shiny crystals in here and have a lot of this silver bling pizzazz to kind of finish the transition from here to here. And, that'll just stay as it's dark blue and nobody knows why, although I probably will just remind myself to maybe put another blue over here just to tie those things in like we talked about. And then a lot of this little disco crazy, including this nonsense. How wonderful is this thing? This disco ball. That's going to have to be up in here somewhere. I mean, I can see that going on in here as a transition over there. So I might just flip myself around and be done with the making. Would that be okay?
Sure. Lorena wanted to know if the yellow mat in the background is going to be a backing. It's not. It's like a non-stick mat, right, Christi?
It's a silicone mat, exactly. Yeah. So this is a silicone mat. It will peel right off when I'm all done. I have these big mats and I chop them down. But on my Amazon page, I've got, and you can get to that through my website, links to getting just some non-stick silicone sheets because they are really helpful to do the epoxy clay on. But you don't have to. You could get a tile and put some saran wrap on it. You could use a plastic baggie. Any kind of flexible plastic is going to be a non-stick. So that'll work out fantastically. Yeah. All right. So Kristen, I'm going to flip this around and it's going to be dumb and weird. So just hold on a minute while I figure it out.
My camera, so you're cool.
Beautiful. Okay.
So
yeah, it's about time we see what you have going.
Lovely pendants that Christi just broke apart today. And here's what I made with that same kit, just to give you an idea of just like how much variety. And I have a ton of beads left over too. So,
that's so lovely
with the idea of making jewelry, but it is fun to make things like sun catchers and all sorts of other things. I love the decorative mirror or frame idea. Those are all possible. And like Christi said, the kit is going to have a theme. So all the beads are going to go together. And then that just makes it that much more easy to do. Here's how the second bracelet turned out. I've got my knotted tubes. I've got a really nice set of golem beads there. Beautiful bird from Heather Powers. And then kind of using a similar technique to what I saw in her bracelet from TGBE. Thank you for that inspiration, Heather. It's been on my mind ever since Spring Fling. I've been thinking about it and wanting to do something with those beads. So
how cool is that? That's nice that came sort of full circle around to make the inspiration pop right into your kit that you already had. How cool is that?
It was perfect today. So let's get to our giveaway. Let me grab the share screen.
There's just so many people commenting. And I'm sorry, I always love to kind of talk to everybody as we go along. But as you can tell, there's so many of you watching, which is great, that we are just doing our thing and then letting you do your thing over there, which is wonderful. So thank you for watching us. That's so great.
Yes, thanks for being here, everybody. We have 93 entries right now. It's your last chance to enter with hashtag Go Bananas in the comments. We were super excited to have Christi Friesen here today. Thank you for being here, Christi.
You're welcome. I was super excited too.
So when I pick a winner, you're going to have to check in the comments. Let us know that you're here and to claim your prize. And I'm going to click right now. We've got 95 entries. Here we go. Who will it be today? This is my favorite part of the show. I grew up on Oprah. So I'm like, you get a pendant and you get Peterson. Didn't you just win recently? How exciting. To get a lottery ticket.
Somebody's on a roll.
Yeah,
nice.
Maybe it was a little bit ago when she won something, but congratulations, Julie. We love you, and I'm pretty sure you're still here. So check it in the comments. Let us know. There she is. And email info@softluxcompany.com. Let them know that you won one of those beautiful flower shell pendants from the Exotic Blooms design kit. Make sure they have your shipping address. I'm pretty sure they do, but just check on it with Terry, and then she will get that shipped out to you shortly. One last thing, we've got our schedule ahead. Don't forget, it's buy 2 trios, get 1 free. So put 3 trios in your cart, and I think the discount will automatically appear at softluxcompany.com. You can find the Exotic Blooms bead mix and the pendant on the website now. Look for our next kit on the last Wednesday of this month, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We will unveil Turtle Love, which has a really nice ocean vibe, like our friend Christi.
That's so cool because I'm doing a turtle a free live coming up here just real soon when we're making, let me see,
Really?
it is, actually this Saturday, 11 o'clock Hawaiian time. We're going to use epoxy clay and bead bits and make a little turtle. So we're in the same vibe, girl. We are in the same vibe.
Do people need to sign up for that, or how is it?
They just show up there. You can go to my website and get the details. There's a little PDF to remind you. But yeah, just mark it on your calendar, 11 o'clock Hawaii time Saturday.
Yes, that works great.
Yeah, so you might as well get the turtle kit from you guys, and then you'll just be twirling it all over.
Yes, perfect.
Multiple turtle time. When can they get the turtle kit from you?
They've already all bought it. It's gone. But I open it on the last Wednesday of the month. So if you have it already and you're loving the turtle vibes, tune in for Christi this Saturday. Find out details on her website.
Cool.
Also, we have our weekly live sale tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific through 4 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday we have a live sale now. It runs through the whole weekend, so you can shop all weekend long. And then Sweet Joyce will be back on Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, with some very beautiful Spill the Beads project to inspire you as well. So thank you guys for being here today. Christi, thank you for picking up my mood this week and bringing me so much joy.
You're welcome.
Really am glad it was you this week. I needed a little Christi Friesen magic. So,
well, I'm glad too, my dear. I'm very glad. What better thing to do than play together with beads, right?
I know. Yes, it is definitely has its therapeutic value. I have definitely found I'm like the opposite of most people. I'm like, can I just go to work? I just want to go work. I like working.
That's right. The work is where the beads are.
I need a shirt because I'd rather be working.
Oh, that's a good one. Keep them guessing, man. Keep them guessing.
Right. And on that note, I will leave you guys. Christi is an antidepressant, Clem said. Totally. That's what you need on a t-shirt, Christi.
Take 2 Christies and call me in the morning.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See you again tomorrow for the live sale.